All right, welcome back to another episode of the Casey Campbell Podcast. Casey Campbell with you, of course. We are pleased to be joined once again by the MHSAA Executive Director, Mark Ewell. Mark, thank you so much for joining us.
Good to be with you yet again, Casey. The story of the year. So good to be here.
Well, and then another announcement. Of course, there is no one that has gone through more hoops to jump through and everything else than you guys. And today, yesterday's announcement of Governor Whitmer's capacity limits are now done. Of course, the governor announced that there would be no capacity limits for outdoor stadiums. Indoor would be 50%, and then July 1st, that all goes away. The outdoor capacity limits crowd goes away on June 1st. Just to clarify that, but which means you immediately announce that all your championships and all your events from here going forward past June 1st will have no attendance restrictions and also no mitigation things. How about that?
That's exciting. Our planning challenge the last month has really focused on our track and field finals. We've got 4 of those sites are in the greater Grand Rapids area. And then our 5th site is at Kingsford because track and field, the Upper Peninsula has their own division, so the UP finals. And I can tell you that with the former restrictions of no more than 1,000 spectators, that was going to be a real challenge, especially in our larger divisions for our track and field finals. So the governor's announcement yesterday that as of June 1, there are no more outdoor capacity limits. Casey, I'm telling you that really relieved a ton of pressure on our staff, as well as those host sites that are coming through for us with track and field.
Yeah.
The reality is for many of our other spring championships, spring is the smallest group of crowds and gatherings of any of the 3 seasons. We really don't think this will have much of an impact. Now, when we do get to our finals in June, boys and girls lacrosse potentially, the removal of the 1,000 person limit could really help us. And then it could help us at Michigan State with baseball, softball, and girls soccer to finish up the year. So no, the mask requirement went away 2 weeks ago. We just got the announcement now with no more outdoor crowd restrictions. That was good news. So, the optimist in me says, maybe we'll get some more news about something end of next week too.
And that's something, of course, is the testing. So kind of explain where we are on that.
So the current order still requires weekly testing of all school and non-school athletes. So what many of our schools are doing is they're bringing their kids in on Sunday night, or they're doing it early Monday morning, and the kids pass their rapid test for the week, and then they're good to go for that week. That current order expires on May the 31st. And we are hopeful that testing will come to an end on May 31st. Again, it would only leave us about 3 weeks of the total spring season left. All of those spring sports are outdoors. They're now all unmasked. And it just makes logical sense for the testing to go away there too. To be honest, Casey, the actual testing itself, our athletic directors really have that down to a science. It's really gone efficiently in many of our schools. Really in almost all of our schools, our positive test rates have been below 1%. So that's been a really good bit of information to receive back. The biggest challenge that we've had with positive cases hasn't been the kids who have tested positive. It's been the close contact and quarantine guidelines that somebody tests positive and you were sitting within 5.5 feet of that person in a math class or on a bus or at lunch. Well, then those kids have been out anywhere from 10 to 14 days. And so, again, kind of the last step to climb here would be the elimination of testing. And we are hopeful that there will be 0 testing this summer that's going to be required of all of our kids involved in summer activity as well. So the hope is that 10 days from now, so we're recording this on May the 21st. We're hoping by May the 31st that testing becomes a thing of the past.
Okay, so a couple other things I have for you, Mark. With spring sports, on their conclusion starting in June, we get to fall sports. It looks like from all COVID restrictions are going to be done by July 1st, unless something catastrophic happens. But when it comes to, fall sports and, especially football, do you see maybe more of a normal thing in there? And another question for football that I have is that will you similar to what will we see, do you have to qualify for the playoffs? Are we going back to that?
So I agree with you, Casey. I think that all the indications for August appear to be trending in a very normal direction. That, as of July 1st, all of the COVID restrictions and limitations and orders go away. Really excited about that. My dad's been a season ticket holder for football at the University of Michigan since the mid 1970s. He got his email yesterday about already from the Michigan Athletic Department about, season ticket deposits. And we anticipate, a full big house. Spartan Stadium and Michigan State, I think, are doing the same thing. The Lions are anticipating that. So there's a ton of optimism right now for the fall. In terms of the football playoffs, it's been nice that all of our schools now have the experience of one season where everybody got into the football tournament. Our football committee discussed this at length in January. And for this upcoming school year, there was a push to have no change, to essentially go back to normal for the upcoming year. Because, Casey, what you have to remember with football scheduling, those usually are set a year to 2 years in advance.
Yeah.
So everybody already had their 9-game schedule in place for this year. What we'll do now is we'll go through that 9-game schedule. The top 256 qualify for the 11-player playoffs. Then when our committee meets again next January, we'll really be able to say, okay, in the last 2 years, we've now had the two experiences. We've had the everybody in, and we've gone back to the old way of you have to qualify. All right, with these recent experiences in the last 2 years, which one do we want to kind of hitch our wagon to in terms of long term? And so I could see, Casey, next winter into the early spring where we could be making a long-term decision on what our football playoffs may look like moving forward. But no, for the upcoming fall, it's back to a 9-game regular season because those schedules had already been set.
Yeah.
You have to qualify to get in, and I think there will be a pretty robust conversation coming up to really see what the long-term plan will be.
So just to clarify, in terms of the playoffs, teams will have to, not based on the 6 wins you're in 2 years ago, it'll be what it was supposed to be last year with
the strength of schedule formula. Exactly right.
Is that how we're going to get? Is that how we are going to determine the playoffs?
It is, and so remember, we made the change from just simply the 6 wins and you're in to going back to this more strength of schedule metric, which that got approved and that was in place pre-pandemic. And I think that's the other reason our football committee wanted to at least give this a full season using the strength of schedule methodology that was approved and in place. So that, I think, was yet even another reason, outside of schedules really being finalized and finished, is we really need to give the strength of schedule metric. They should be able to get a season to see how we like that. And like I said, I think once we get to the Monday after Thanksgiving weekend, after our finals finish in the fall, folks will have very fresh memories of, okay, everybody in, we know what that was like. We now know what it was like with the strength of schedule formula. Which one do we like better, and which one do we want to follow long term? And that's where I see the decision getting made.
Yeah. Okay. So that's kind of really being at. Do you feel? And then overall, of course, we talked to you in the fall and winter and everything that happened there. Have you talked to coaches and talking about seeing like what any changes coming for the winter seasons or anything like that?
Not really. Anecdotally, we've gotten some feedback from our winter coaches that certainly this year's winter season was too short, just because of the orders and the restrictions. Winter was as condensed as you can make it. Some interesting things is nobody wants it that short and that condensed. But we have heard from some coaches that, you know what, the winter season in a normal year is extremely long. I mean, you're starting in November and your season isn't finishing sometimes in the late March. A sport like wrestling, Casey, to where we start in mid-November, wrestling gets going for 2 weeks, and then the Thanksgiving weekend hits. Then we get it ramped up again for 3 weeks, and then the 2 week break over the December holidays hit, and then we get started in January and finish on out. You know, our wrestling community said, well, gosh, you know, starting, maybe it's not after the first of the year, but maybe not starting until after Thanksgiving. That's one less break, because of course in wrestling, it's not just managing the length of season, but kids are having to monitor and manage their weight. And every day and every week that goes by, that just creates a longer window for that weight management. And our basketball people said this, I've heard a lot of the same things, that, you know, could we maybe cut a week, still keep the number of games, but maybe could we trim the calendar by a week? There's been another suggestion. So that's got to get more conversation. You know, we're keeping a very careful list of the things we've had to do because of COVID. And some of these deserve some more conversation to see if they should be around after COVID. So we'll see what the future holds.
Okay, so in terms of streaming, I know that you guys relaxed some of your streaming rights after this. Do you think that you'll keep that going forward, or do you think you'll go back to the way it was?
We're going to go back to the way that it was, to where schools will have the first opportunity to stream their games. Many of our schools now are very experienced at streaming. And, you know, whether a school wants to use the NFHS network model, to where they've got the Pixelot, which are the automated cameras. A lot of our schools now have those, and they'll continue to do that. Others may, you know, stay with the school broadcasting program, to where their own students produce these stream games. And then there's the other method is schools just kind of stream games on their own. They put it behind a password protected wall, which is okay. So we'll go back to our regulations next year, which really schools will determine how they wish to stream the regular season games. And then when it comes postseason, you know, that's handled through our site. So yeah, there will be a return to some normalcy there too, but streaming is here to stay. I think all of our schools now have become pretty good at it. And yeah, the nice thing moving forward is lots of options for relatives and family members, or parents who travel for work will be able to see their kids play even when they're from a long distance away.
Do you see like Bally Sports Detroit broadcasting any regular season games or anything like that, like they did last year?
You know, they've done some regular season football games here and there, kind of leading into the playoffs, and I think that might that would be here to stay. Those conversations always are ongoing. We're incredibly fortunate that the good folks with Bally Sports Detroit, there's a real affinity for high school sports in Michigan. They like us, they like the product, and we'll continue to explore ways that that partnership can grow. It you know, a little bit of a challenge now that our TV partner is named after a gambling company and facility, but that's just the way it is. You know, sports. I was at a conference here about a month or so ago, and they talked about, you know, what are the new trends in sports law that we're all going to have to deal with, and sports gambling is right there at the top of the list. You know, with all of the ability now for folks to bet online, it's a changing world in a lot of ways, and certainly we're proud of the partnership with Bally Sports Detroit, and we'll see if we can continue that to grow.
Yeah. So, I mean, overall, this, you know, we're coming to the end. I know this has been quite the year for you personally, as well as the MHSAA. What type of things that maybe you'll take from this year, and it's like, oh, what are we going to do? Maybe heading into the future a little bit.
You know, I think one thing that we've learned this year is you really can be flexible. You know, what this year has shown us is conditions have changed very, very quickly. We've had to change with them. And I think us as an organization, we've learned that, you know what, we we can be pretty nimble and move quickly when we have to. And so I think that'll be something moving forward that we'll try and hang on to. I think just a personal lesson this year is, there were many days to where any decision that you made was not going to be popular with everybody. There's some segment of the population that even still to this day believes that for us to do anything, for us to be playing, is reckless and dangerous, and we're putting all of these people at risk because of the virus, which I could not disagree with more strongly. But you respect people's opinions, and so we got some of that feedback, and yet we got folks at the other end of the spectrum that would criticize us, for not taking on the governor or standing up to the governor, and why are you following any of the epidemic orders and earlier the executive orders? So you get that crowd as well, and with like most things, the reality is somewhere in the middle. And from a leadership perspective, I think a big takeaway is you have to have really thick skin in jobs like this. And, there's going to be lots of opinions and lots of critics out there. And at the end of the day, you need to do what you're required to do by law. You do what you believe is right in your gut, and then you let the chips fall where they may. And I think our staff has done a good job of that.
Do you regret any of the decisions that you've made or done in the past year?
I don't regret anything. We made decisions, Casey, every day based on the facts as we knew them on that day.
Okay.
And you made the best call that you did. You fast forward a week later and the circumstances and conditions were different. Would you then have maybe made a different decision? Well, yes. But to say that there's been any regret, I think, and this isn't just us, I think every walk of life, people have had to make decisions over the last 15 months about a virus that we didn't know much about initially.
Right.
All of those things. So it's easy to go back and Monday morning quarterback everything, but we've tried to make the best decisions each day. When circumstances changed and it forced us to change in a different direction, we did it. And I think that's been the nature of trying to lead here during a pandemic. And looking back now, knowing what we know today and looking back, would you have done different things at different moments? Perhaps, but to use the word regret, the thing I do regret, is the thing I regret is we've had, and I think that the hardest part with this whole thing is we've lost a number of people that have been connected to our staff. We've lost 6 officials that I can name right now due to COVID. That was so that the things that you really regret are those individuals and those families that will be forever affected by COVID, by the virus. Those are voids that can never be filled. So I think we need to be mindful of that too, that, we believe that we could play this year and we could do it safely, but those folks that were affected by the virus, we can't forget their memories either.
All right. Well, Mark Uyl, thank you so much for coming on, and congrats on what a crazy year. You guys have gotten all 3 sports in. It looks like you guys are almost to the finish line. So maybe we'll and good luck trying to plan all this stuff next year.
Hey, since last August, Casey, when we started talking, the goal has always been 3 seasons that all reach the finish line. And if nothing else, we're people of our word, and it looks like that's going to happen. So it's good to visit with you all these times. I do hope, Casey, next year that we won't have to talk as frequently, that there really will be some normalcy. So fingers crossed.
All right. Good stuff, man.